Welcome, everyone, to another episode of VMblog's Expert Interview Series. And today we're excited to be speaking once again with Simon Taylor, the founder and CEO of HYCU. Simon.
Hi, Dave. Great to be here.
Happy New Year, and it's great to speak with you again.
Great to speak with you as well, sir.
So HYCU's coming off a really successful year. Can you share more on what made 2022 such a strong year for the company?
Yeah, sure. We've had, back-to-back years of 100+% growth, which has been astounding for us. A few major highlights. First and foremost, we were named as a Gartner Magic visionary in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for Enterprise Backup and Recovery, which was critical. We also added AWS, the last of the major hyperscalers, to our HYCU Protégé integration platform. Added over 500 customers worldwide. We now have 3,600 customers in 78 countries. And I think most importantly, we were able to maintain our 90 NPS score. And I think when we think about, gaining so much momentum and traction in terms of number of customers, the idea that we're maintaining that score and really truly auditing and keeping ourselves honest, reaching out to every single new customer that joins the HYCU family, and still getting those sort of incredible scores. I think that speaks wonders about our products, our customer support team, and frankly, the customer experience when working with and using HYCU products and services.
So I've watched your company's progress for many years now, and it's obviously been an impressive run, like you just talked about. Did you always think that there would be a need to do backup and recovery differently?
No, Dave, absolutely not. In fact, the way that we created the vision for HYCU is a bit of a funny story. I had sold a prior company to Citrix, and I was in Las Vegas celebrating the success of that win. And I bumped into the man who is now my CTO and co-founder, Goran Gorevsky, one of the most well-regarded data protection architects probably on planet Earth. He'd worked with about 40% of the Gartner Magic Quadrant, knew everything there was to know about data protection. And, I saw him and I was joking around with him a little bit. And I said, man, come on, backup and recovery. What is that? Old legacy. And he said to me, Simon, how'd you get here today? Did you take a taxi? And I said, no, I took an Uber. And he said, but there's no Uber in the data protection industry. And this really set us out on a very long conversation that ultimately led to the creation of HYCU. And Dave, as you know, HYCU stands for Hybrid Cloud Uptime, HYCU, but also represents the idea of a Japanese haiku poem, where we take all the data in a language and boil it down to a, sort of a small, elegant package. And that's really what we set out to create. When we thought about the world of data protection, we said there's two major issues with it. The first is it's very siloed. You effectively have lots of different vendors backing up lots of different types of environment. No one had really cracked the equivalency problem in which you try to identify one platform and architect a platform that could service equally on-prem, physical, virtualized environments, public cloud, and even SaaS. And the second challenge was to SaaSify data protection. How do you create a data protection framework that really was true SaaS, where you could log in, turn it on, not download something, have it all policy-based, have the user experience SaaS, have the commercial model SaaS. And so I think we really cracked that code with HYCU, and that's certainly why we've seen such great growth, I think, in the last few years.
And you sort of talked about, SaaS data protection wasn't an easy nut to crack, and you guys have kind of figured that missing piece out. As we're thinking about HYCU and what makes you different from other companies who've been trying to address this whole SaaS data protection challenge, can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what makes you different, or how is it that you did create such a success over these last years, even now heading into 2023?
Well, prior to 2023, we had sort of architected the idea of the inverted platform. We said we're going to build purpose-built backup services that natively integrate with each individual data source. So we built purpose-built backup for VMware, Nutanix, Google, Azure, AWS, even Office 365 and Kubernetes. And then we rolled all of that under a single pane of glass that we called HYCU Protégé. And that worked really well, and that's how we got 3,600 customers, et cetera, et cetera. But, I started to think about, the way that, data silos were starting to really sprawl. And I really started to get obsessed with this idea, or fanatical, I should say, about this idea of eliminating data silo sprawl. And what I mean by that is, if you go back to, I don't know, 20 or 30 years ago, and you imagine the number of sources that your data was sitting in, the number of silos. And now I want you to picture that there were 5 or 6 of those silos, and try to picture a dice, a pair of regular 6-sided pair of dice. Well, if that 6-sided pair of dice represents your entire data estate, you've got some virtualized environments on one side, some physical servers, maybe you're starting to use Salesforce, maybe there's an old mainframe, et cetera, et cetera. You could have put, the average mid-market company could have put an IT resource to almost guard and protect each one of those sides. But if we think about, what that looks like today, I always say, try to imagine one of those 100-sided, Dungeons and Dragons role-playing dice, right? Because and this is an incredible statistic, the average mid-market company today, Dave, has their data in no less than 212 different data silos because of SaaS. And so then I dug deeper into this, and we, my team and I, we said, well, how many SaaS vendors are there? You sort of look at it and you say, like, how many would you have to protect? Well, there's 17,000 SaaS vendors in the United States alone. Wow. So then we looked at this and we said, okay, so you've got the average mid-market company that has about 10 people in their IT department, okay? They are trying to protect 212 different data silos out of a universe of 17,000 different SaaS services. And the big problem that we recognized is that the way data protection gets built, it's typically a guy like me sitting in this chair saying, I decide what we back up, right? And the way we do that is, as data protection CEOs and product folks, is we look at the TAM, the total addressable market, and we say this TAM is large enough for us to make money if we protect it. And the fallacy in that notion, where I honestly believe we owe an apology to customers around the world as data protection vendors, is that does a huge disservice to every company out there, because these companies with 212 data silos each don't have the same 212 data silos. They're 212 data silos comprised of 17,000 potential sources. So we sort of took a look at this, and I know this is a long-winded answer to your question, but what I'm thrilled to announce today, Dave, is the launch of the world's first development platform for data protection. We call it R-Cloud. And what we realized is effectively that we can't build a data source integration for every SaaS vendor. But if we open up, we sort of tear the roof off HYCU, and we enable those SaaS vendors to write to us to leverage our platform using low-code, no-code, my gosh, all of a sudden, it's not HYCU writing 17,000 integrations. It's 17,000 SaaS vendors who now have a place they can go to get enterprise-level data protection as a service. And then we took it a step further and we said, okay, so we're going to enable this marketplace where any vendor, any SaaS vendor can now say, yes, I have an answer. When an end customer says, how do you protect my data? The SaaS vendor can now say, well, we integrate with HYCU. That's step one. But then we thought, oh my gosh, data environments are so complex now. The CISO, the CIO, the VP of infrastructure, they no longer know where all their data is, right? So Dave, you've been in this industry a while. So back in the day, all you had to do was count your servers, understand how many VMs you were running, and you were pretty much good to go.
Right.
Well, today, with SaaS, your marketing team could very easily turn on an application or a database, or, there might be a new customer success tool or a new HR tool. You just simply can't visualize your entire data estate. Well, HYCU R-Cloud is changing all of that with the introduction of what we call R-Graph. What we've done is with a patent pending process, we have integrated with Okta and Active Directory. We can discover an entire environment, and then we display it in this beautiful tree that actually shows CIOs, CISOs, and customers where all of their different SaaS services are. They can click on any SaaS service in the tree. They can right click on it and they can select data protection, and they can turn on policies to protect all of those services. And then they can manage their RPO and their RTO effectively. So again, really long answer, but effectively we are solving the SaaS data protection problem by turning it on its head and launching the world's first data protection development platform.
Obviously, I mean, we talked about it. You guys are starting off strong in 2023 with this, especially with this announcement on R-Cloud. Where can folks go? I mean, you kind of dived in a bit to tell us about, what it is and how it's different, and where can people go if they want to learn even more about what you've just talked about?
They can just go right to www.hycu.com. That's www.hycu.com. And right on the homepage, they'll be directed to the R-Cloud mini site, where they'll have all the information and resources they need, both as a SaaS developer who's looking to integrate with HYCU and make sure that they provide end customer data protection as a service, and for the end customer who's looking to understand how they can protect their SaaS workloads.
And I'm kind of curious, you talked about the 17,000 SaaS programs or applications that are out there. How many, it's a lot of people in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
How do you go about partnering with those folks to get them on board and to kind of, dive in and work within the R-Cloud?
Well, I'll tell you, under NDA, we had started this process prior. HYCU is committed to adding over 100 integrations into the R-Cloud marketplace just in 2023 alone. And that number could really snowball because, SaaS vendors don't need HYCU in order to build these integrations. This is the beauty of it. We heard stories about, large billion-dollar companies that were literally begging enterprise data protection vendors saying, please, my customers are demanding that you integrate with me. And, the data protection vendor is saying, well, you're just not big enough for us. We don't care about you. And I said, my goodness, with 17,000 SaaS vendors, and this is an amazing stat. If you look at every SaaS vendor protected by the entire Gartner Magic Quadrant for backup and recovery, it's 7. Out of 17,000, it's 7, right? And so there's just such a massive gap here. And so we knew that when we did this, we had to make this low code, no code. We had to really enable SaaS vendors to go to the website, turn it on, follow the instructions. And, we literally say within 2 days, you can have a full service enterprise level data protection as a service that's built on top of HYCU Protege. And I think that's the game changer. And really what we are going to focus a lot on this year is just pure enablement. Making sure that every SaaS product manager, CTO, and even CEO is aware that A, their end customers are not protected, and B, there's a very, very simple, no cost and minimal time investment they can make that's going to make a world of difference for their end customers.
Well, Simon, this has been great. I appreciate the the information on R-Cloud and all the updates on HYCU. It's hopefully you and we've had a chance to talk a few times in 2022. Hopefully in 2023, we'll talk again, and can't wait to learn more and see what you guys keep, bringing to market.
I look forward to it, Dave. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
All right. Thanks for joining us.